Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Cool Room. We are now back, guys. Today is Sunday, July 24th. We have a special guest today and have a great conversation around law enforcement and our interactions with it. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Amaru,
Hi guys, welcome to the Cocoon Room, and I'm Candace.
and this is our special guest, uh, Ezekiel Kelly. It was funny we were talking before the show. He is a diehard Chicago Bears fan.
That's right.
He is, you see it in the background.
See it in the
Uh,
back, man.
he is also a former Word Trooper. He's a Trooper alumni, Red House alumni. And
9-5.
yes, and yes, class of '95. So that means you're 4 years older than us. So
Yeah,
we're not
stand up.
really old, right? Right? You really
Stand up. Stand up. 95.
and a law enforcement expert. And so we want to have this conversation with him because it is the summertime, and then we do have things that are going on. We have busy lives. We still have a pandemic going on, but we thought that this conversation would be beneficial because a lot of a lot of people our age have kids, right, that are driving, and so we want to just have this conversation, make sure it's educational. Um, Questions that you may have involving police interactions, getting pulled over. We're going to try to cover all that within this next hour because we know he got to go to work.
Yeah.
With that being said, we want to start off with our word of the day. Oh, well, I'm sorry, scripture. And I'll post it and give it to you, Candace.
All right. Again, hi guys. Our scripture today is John 16 and 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So I picked this scripture just because we are currently talking about police relations with with the communities and how in the past it has affected the Black community.
Okay. So, and just want to give a background to how this started. It was some weird stuff that happened, and I talked to him. It was a couple years ago, and I just said, "Hey, would you like to be interviewed?" Like just to have that conversation. And he was like, "Yeah, but we never got around to it, right?" And so, a couple years later, podcast start, and I just thought about it. I just said, "Hey, because it's the summer, popping up, let's see if we can have revisit having this conversation." And he was always receptive to it. And so, do you have any opening remarks, Mr. Kelly?
No, man, I just appreciate y'all having me, man. I'm glad to be here, man, and just have an opportunity to have a platform, and talk about anything. I mean, it's not often when you get a chance to have a platform to talk, about whatever the topic may be. In this case, we're talking about law enforcement, but I'm just happy to be here, man. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, cool. So go ahead. Do you have anything?
I just want to take the time out to say thank you very much. You said you graduated in 95?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, 95, we were actually just getting this. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting you then, but thank you and welcome on to the show. Thanks for
It's my pleasure, Queen, for sure.
Yeah. And so, guys, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comment section. We will try to address them within this hour. Like I said, because we want him to go to work, right? We don't want him red-eyed and whatnot, being focused on this topic. So, one question. Well, I gave him a list of 10. If you have any, feel free. But this is one of the first ones that I sent to him. What should you do when you feel, and just saying feel, we put that in quotation marks, feel like you're being detained unlawfully during a traffic stop? And so, because like I said, some of us do have kids that are just now getting driving and all that. And so we wanted to make sure that we have this conversation with an actual officer, right? And so what would you advise, or what would be some advice you would give parents and or kids if they feel like they're being detained unlawfully during a traffic stop?
All right, good question. So what I always tell people is you let the traffic stop conclude, right? So if you want to make a complaint that maybe the deputy or officer was rude or they talked to you nasty or whatever like that, then there's an avenue for that. You can either go to the station itself. And a lot of guys, just to preface it, I work in Florida. So a lot of things I'm going to give you is how Florida does. Some things would be kind of all 50 statish, kind of stuff, but a lot of stuff be geared towards Florida, and most states are kind of similar with certain things, but we'll just kind of navigate that when we cross it. But anywho, go to your local department or substation, depending on how big your agency is, and you can file a formal complaint for whatever it was. The officer was rude, they talked to you nasty, or whatever. If you get cited for something, speeding, seatbelt, or whatever, and you feel like you were unjustly cited for it, the side of the road is not the place to argue that. All right. So in all 50 states, you have an option to take your citation to court and have the whole situation be listened to by a third party, non-law enforcement, a judge or a magistrate, and he or she can make the decision whether the ticket is applicable or not. A lot of people, I'm just going to call for a supervisor or whatever. A supervisor in the state of Florida, at least, a supervisor cannot take away a ticket. He doesn't have that power. He or she does not have that power. They can't. If I write you a traffic citation for speeding, a supervisor can't come and listen to your argument and say, okay, no, we're just going to throw it away. It doesn't work that way. It has to be mediated by a judge or a magistrate for that. Now, a supervisor can listen to a complaint that you may have, about a deputy or an officer, but that's pretty much all they can do on the side of the road. But my number one thing is let the traffic stop conclude. And then you can, choose your options, what you want to do if you want to pursue a complaint or you want to take your traffic citation to court.
Well, follow up with that, because you said the supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be any case where there, because you said supervisor, so would there any law enforcement officer, let's say if it was, someone that got pulled over and they just say, I want to see somebody, a higher official, a higher ranking. Would there be any case in any scenario where a higher level officer can override the one who's making the citation?
Not for a traffic citation. And the reason why is because I'll just use speeding, for example, right? If I have you on radar, for example, and I say that you were speeding, that's what my radar, and that's my testimony, because a traffic citation is a sworn document. That's my testimony that you were speeding, whatever I say that you were doing. A supervisor doesn't have the power to come and say, oh, well, no, they weren't speeding. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They have no way of knowing, okay, yeah, well, that's what he said. I don't have any way to challenge that.
Right. Okay.
So, it's as far as debating rights and wrongs, as far as traffic stuff and like that, then that's pretty much null and void. There's really nothing that they can do about it.
Okay. So, and I just want to follow. So when, let's say if you feel that way, like you said, let the situation conclude itself. And so basically don't argue with the police officer.
Right. Take your ticket to court. Take it to court.
Yeah.
And then one, if the officer, he or she, doesn't show up, then they're going to automatically dismiss the citation. And two, again, using the state of Florida rules, there's three options when you go to court in the state of Florida for traffic. Option number one, bless you.
Thank you.
Option number one is you can just ask for what they call a withhold of points. So it's saying, hey, I'm not saying I did it. I'm not saying I didn't do it, but I'm willing to pay the ticket as long as I don't get no points on my driver's license, right? But that's what people don't want. They don't want the points. It's not really about the fine. It's about the points, because you don't want your insurance to go up, right? That's what most of it's about. So that's option number one. Option number two is I unequivocally did not do this, and I want to have a trial for it. Okay. So the officer's going to get up there. He's going to say his piece. I'm going to say my piece. We can bring witnesses. We can bring whatever we need, all our evidence, and then the judge, he or she, can make a decision at that point, right? And then, or the third and final option is all right, I just don't pay the ticket. Those are the three options that you have as far as addressing it.
Go ahead,
but all that is done on the court level, though.
Okay.
Okay, just a quick follow up. Okay, say
Uh-huh.
that does happen that you get pulled over for speeding or running a light or whichever,
Mhm.
and you know that the police is coming. Okay, so I did run the light or I was speeding, and I'm not going to really argue the case right there on the side of the road. But the police comes up, and the officer is aggressive. How do you handle that situation when you are being reserved and the officer is actually being really super aggressive?
So I tell people, like I was brought up, I kill people with kindness, because it usually takes two to tango, you know. And so, I mean, I've been pulled over. I, you know,
Yeah.
I, I've been going to football games. I've been pulled over, and my whole thing is that if you feel someone is aggressive, and again, that's all perception. If you look back, remember the movie everybody's watched, the movie Police Academy. Remember
Yeah.
the black chick Hooks? She was all soft spoken or whatever. Till someone tried to run her over, and
Yeah.
then she like,
Yeah.
boom, she jumped out on you, whatever, right? So, um, so people are just people. So you have some people that just come off aggressive. They could be rude. They could be an array of things. But I always say it takes two. You know, in the state of Florida, there's three things that you must have while you're operating a motor vehicle: your driver's license, proof of insurance, and your vehicle registration. Those are the three things that the state of Florida says that you must be able to provide to law enforcement if you're stopped. Okay, so you get some officers, they'll come up. They'll ask for all three of those documents. They might ask for one, they might ask for two. But I tell people, just be accommodating, because what we do, for me, I'm on a specialized unit, and we pretty much go out and we chase the bad of the bad guys. That's just what we do, right? um, but a lot of things that we do is we do what we would call bullshit traffic stops, right?
Mm.
And the reason that we do bullshit traffic stops, because if you've committed a crime and you shot somebody, you did whatever, right? You're not going to drive down, I'll pick a Gary Street, Broadway, at 100 miles per hour,
Hmm.
right? You did some dirt 2 days ago. You're not going to drive down Broadway at 100 miles per hour.
So
Now,
can
you
I
might
say
not,
this? Is that considered profiling?
huh?
Is it considered profiling? Because you said it's BS traffic stops, but is that
No, so that's
categorized
that's
as
what people call it.
profiling?
And this is what I classify as a BS traffic stop. You only have one functioning headlight,
Mm.
right? You don't have a tag light. Your license plate light is out. All your brake lights aren't functioning properly, right? And the reason why I call them BS traffic stops is because that's the first thing you get when you go to the car. Oh, y'all ain't got shit else to do but pull me over because it's murders and killers out there and blah blah blah. Whatever, whatever. That's the first thing people say. Oh, this bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. That's what people say. You know.
But
Eh,
okay, so I got a question follow up
But
too.
I'm right though, right? Keeping
Yeah,
it
but
real.
so the reason I'm glad you said that, so if the interaction, like you said, is called BS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it so? That's because that's a part of that specialized unit you in. Would
No,
you?
like any officer can pull you over for, a traffic violation, equipment violation. So I'll give you a prime example. So last week, I think it was last week, a week before last, I pulled over a guy who was pulling a lawn trailer, and one of the brake lights on the lawn trailer was not working, right? So I conducted a traffic stop on him. He had 6 felony warrants for child molestation, 6, and they had been looking for this guy for a while, and he got arrested because of a faulty brake light on a lawn trailer. A bullshit traffic stop.
And so, but that was where I was going. So like some of those is just to see. I mean, like it ain't. I mean, I wouldn't.
So it's two purposes of it. So so when was the last time that you guys did a safety check on your vehicle?
Never.
Right. Right. But that's what your handbook says, though. Your handbook says before you operate your vehicle, you should do a safety check. You should make sure that the horn is working, the lights are working, the turn signals are working, etc. So
Zeke, how many people know that?
But this is why
right. This is why you have to be informed. The very first shooting I got into was because the guy's brake light didn't work, and he was a murder suspect out of Mississippi.
Wow.
Okay.
But he didn't have a functioning brake light.
Yeah.
Right. So this guy who killed his mama. So right. So again, these are things, man. You know, but
It's
everybody
always
ain't privy
to
to this.
to hear the other side of the coin. It's always here to hear the other side. Real quickly, we have
Right.
a comment from Ken. Ken says, "Can you pop it up for me on my room?"
Which one? Which one?
Kenny. Okay, so you were talking about, on the side of the road, it's not the appropriate place to kind of have the the tongue tangle with the officer. So Ken says, even if you take the documents to court, the courts are not always on your side. So
Well,
what do you say about that?
That's an opinion for the court. I don't work in the court system. So I've been to court, right? And I've had where a judge has had sympathy for a person, and most of the time what they'll do is they just say, "Oh man, you got a good driving record, this and this or whatever." Let's just say the fine is, I don't know, $160. I don't know, whatever, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll drop the fines, they'll take the points, they'll do whatever, and they'll call themselves trying to meet in the middle. Okay. That's what they'll call themselves doing. Have I seen officers lose in court? Absolutely, I have. Absolutely. So, Mr. Ken, I don't know if it sounds like his experiences, he hasn't, been successful in court, but I've definitely seen officers lose in court. Okay. And a lot of times they didn't have proper documentation, or a citizen has brought some kind of something up and said, "Hey, the light was malfunctioning. I went back and recorded the intersection, and hey, this is what the light was doing." Well, great, cool. That's perfect, because that's what we need. All right, So
Lisa made a comment. We have to do this with our machinery at work, but I never do it with my vehicle. I think she's referring to the safety check. So that's right. Something myself. So I'm gonna safety check right out this.
Right.
Well, Zeke, I will say thank you, because I actually was not aware that we took the cars in the shop for maintenance, but I never really realized that, maybe I should go around the vehicle and see if the headlights are working, the front lights are working, signal lights are working, different things.
But it's normal stuff. Like we as people, we don't really never care about the little things until it's not working, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't care about the light bulb till the light bulb goes out. You're like, oh man, the light's out. Yeah. We really don't. That's just how humans are wired. That's just what we do.
But it's good info to know. I like to pivot to the next question, because I know we're on a time limit. Question number 2: should you always ask for a lawyer just to protect yourself?
So what I take from that is, I'm assuming we're talking about a traffic stop right now.
I would say in general, or we could make it to a traffic stop. Go ahead.
Well,
okay, so since you asked that question, I was going to ask this next. All right. Okay. So I am aware that I don't partake, but I'm aware that marijuana is becoming legal in a lot of these states now. So let's just say it's a state where marijuana is legal, and the person is actually pulled over for a traffic stop for whatever reason. At that time, because marijuana is legal, do you ask the person to step out of the vehicle for PC probable cause, or do you say, okay, I'm pulling you over for speeding, I need driver's license, registration, and insurance card, and then leave it at that? Like, what does that look like? And then if so, then this question would kind of like matter. Should the person ask for a lawyer before stepping out of the vehicle?
Question.
All right, that's a lot. So, all right, so I'll try it like this. So in the state of Florida, you have medical marijuana cards. In the state of Florida, marijuana is not 100% legal. Okay. If you have a medical marijuana card, then you can have marijuana, right? But it has to be in its original packaging you just can't be riding around smoking it. It has to be in this original package from the dispensary, wherever you got it from. And it has to be in a specified amount that that it was issued out. Okay. You're allowed to have hemp products in the state of Florida, but not just regular raw marijuana. So to go to your question, if you smell marijuana in the car, right, you pull them over for speeding and you smell marijuana in the car. The first question in the state of Florida that I'm asking is, hey, do you have a medical marijuana card? If you tell me yes, you do, right? I'll explain to you, hey, I smell marijuana. Do you have any in the car? Obviously, you're going to probably say, yeah, because you got your medical marijuana card, right? Now, if you pull out a backpack full of weed and open it up, then that's all bad. Right. That's all bad because it says, it has to be done a certain way. Now, I'm a slide off that because a lot of people will be like, oh man, that's, bro, that's just a BS move because, I got the medical marijuana card. But as you know now, a lot of states and a lot of agencies require the officers to have body cameras on them.
Mm-hmm.
So because you have a body camera, I can't make that go away because now I'm in trouble for tampering with evidence, which is a third-degree felony in the state of Florida. So now we're stuck between the rock and a hard place because now I've seen this and it's on camera, right? So fast forward to ask about the lawyer, right? Lawyers don't come to traffic stop scenes. So you can we don't invite lawyers out to the field or come to the traffic stop or whatever. So if you're going to be arrested, yes, I would ask for a lawyer after they read you your Miranda rights.
Please explain what those are so people can be clear what those are.
I was going to get into that. I'm glad you asked. So Miranda warnings are your constitutional rights, but this is what people have a big trip up at. People think that law enforcement has to read you Miranda rights, and they don't. What Miranda says is that if a law enforcement officer is going to ask you questions that can incriminate you, they have to read you Miranda first. Now, some agencies require the officers just to read Miranda anyway. But what Miranda actually states is, if I pull you over and let's say you got a suspended driver's license, I'm going to take you to jail for a suspended driver's license, right? I know I pulled you over. I looked on the computer. I know you have a suspended driver's license, right? What questions do I need to ask you? I don't need to ask you anything.
Right. Is your license
right? Right, because I got all the information I need to have. So thus, Miranda wouldn't technically be applicable in this situation. But now, if I'm conducting an investigation, I don't know, about burglary or whatever, right? And I don't read you your rights, but I just go into asking you questions, and you say, yeah, man, I broke into the shed or the house or blah, 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 whatever. Now, once that goes to trial, all that stuff can be suppressed because you weren't afforded an opportunity to exercise your constitutional rights. So, yes, I would ask for a lawyer. Once the officer reads you your rights, your Miranda warnings, rights, they call it different things, but it's Miranda warnings, what it's legally called.
Okay.
So let's just rewind a little bit. So
this
is prior to the person stepping out of the vehicle or the person still in, because if you first pull over and they have to hemp the marijuana card and they say they do, but then they have the backpack of the marijuana, and then you ask them to explain, are you reading them the rights before they begin explaining that they have this extra backpack of marijuana? Because if they say anything before you're explaining those Miranda rights while they're still in the vehicle, then technically that doesn't count. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. So if I come up and I'll dummy it down just a little bit, just because I literally had to get through this myself, right? So if I come up and I ask you, I say, hey, Officer Kelly with the Sheriff's Office, do you have your driver's license with you, right? And you tell me, no, my driver's license is suspended, right? Then at that point, I didn't know anything criminal was going on. That's not a question to lead you into a criminal. I wasn't conducting a criminal investigation at that time, right? Yeah. Now, if I come up and I say, hey, I smell marijuana, do you have a medical marijuana card, right? If you have your card and everything, then I'm not asking you a criminal question, right? You know what I mean? So it all kind of plays into like a role, and it's kind of hard to get sometimes, but I also with that being said, also, again, if the officer asks you to, whenever you get pulled over, right? Whenever you get pulled over, what it says is that the lights and they're pulling you over, they're technically seizing you, all the occupants of the vehicle and the vehicle. So technically you're being seized. That's technically what happens when you get pulled over.
Okay.
right? So the officer can ask you and the occupants of the car to step in and out the vehicle as many times as they want to for officer safety purposes. And we're not talking about searching the car, right? We're talking about, hey, step out the car, step in the car, whatever, this, and this. We're not talking about searching the car, right? But if I feel that, hey, man, I don't like the way this pastor is moving around over here or whatever, I can tell that pastor, hey, man, get out the car and step back here. You know, hey, bro, you ducking your hands, you doing all this. What's really going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but that's how stepping in and out of the car goes. Searching the car is a whole different mantra. Searching the car, either consent to search it, right? Or there's what you call plain sight or plain view. That means I can see in the car and I see something that you're not supposed to have, right? So that's plain view. That gives me authority to search your car. Or like we talked about earlier, the smell, right? So if I got the smell and then the other boxes are not checked, then I can search your car. You know,
this is great because it segues way into the third question, and I'm pretty sure you was probably about to get to this. Do I have to roll the window down, or can I have it cracked during the traffic stop?
So again, like I said, you're being seized at the time. And this third question, we get this from a lot of sovereign citizens. We have a real big problem in Florida with sovereign citizens. Yeah. And for the guest who might not know what a sovereign citizen is, in short, a sovereign citizen is a person who pretty much decides which laws they want to follow and don't follow. That's in essence what a sovereign citizen is.
Is it more so related to like the Moors practice that a lot?
Some of it, a little bit of it is, but you can even go online and like print out sovereign citizen paperwork to like it's a whole practice. It's a whole practice.
One of them is not having a driver's license, correct?
Correct. Registering your vehicle, not having to obey. Again, it's pretty much whatever laws that they feel like they want to obey and not obey, and when they want to do it.
So I do have a question. I always have a question. All right. So getting pulled over, having windows cracked or rolled down. What about if you guys you begin to search the vehicle? Is it true that you cannot go into any compartments that are locked, like the glove compartment or the trunk? What does that look like?
Okay, so again, we're going to talk about the state of Florida on this because I don't know how every state works with it. Okay, so the state of Florida says that if I have probable cause to search your vehicle, I can search anywhere inside the passenger compartment, locked or unlocked.
Okay.
So I can look in the glove box if the glove box is locked or whatever, but I can't go into the trunk. Okay. All right. I can go into any compartment on the inside of the car, anything. So if a female is in the car and she leaves her purse in the car, the purse, all that stuff is all fair game. Okay. Everything inside the passenger compartment is game. The trunk is out of bounds unless there's exigent circumstances, but the trunk is out of bounds.
Okay, so you would have to have a search warrant in order to go into the trunk. Is that correct? Correct.
And like in the state of Florida, now I
believe that's correct in Indiana as well. Now you said you would have to have extreme circumstances. Can you elaborate on that for me, please?
So exigent circumstances, and not trying to be too graphic for people, but this is about 7 or 8 years ago. We did a traffic stop and we had odor, marijuana and stuff coming out the car. And we searched the car. The back seat was saturated in blood, though. Oh. It was saturated in blood. And so we popped the trunk and it was a dude shot in the trunk of the car. And he was leaking through the thing on the seat. So that with the blood, the way that it was acting or whatever, that was an exigent circumstance. Okay. And we entered the trunk. Okay. So now I will tell you, we had here, me and my partner had a guy, and he had a safe in the back seat. He took off running when we pulled him over. We called him. He had a safe in the back seat in the compartment of the car, and we cracked the safe, and he had something like 300, almost 400 grams of methamphetamine in the safe, right? And so his attorney tried to suppress it, was saying, hey, it's locked. It was a locked compartment. He didn't have readily access to it because it was locked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the court obviously sided with us and said, no, it was on the inside of the passenger compartment. Thus, it was fair game, locked or not locked. Okay. So roll the window down. Roll the window down. Okay. Or whatever. So, but when you talk about cracked, right? That's so we can like try to answer that question as fairly as possible. So again, I pulled you over, or you've been pulled over, so you're technically seized, you're technically detained, right? So when you say, hey, do I have to roll a window down? If you don't roll a window down, that's fine, just step out the car. Okay. Right? Because now I can ask you to enter or exit the vehicle. So that's fine, just step out the car then. That's how we would play that.
Okay, then I have a comment here, which is an interesting one. What about firearms or getting pulled over with firearms? And I think this is one of our questions that we was going to ask you, but go ahead.
Okay. So again,
state of Florida.
Yeah, different states vary or whatever. So I'll pick on the state of Florida. This is what I tell people. Okay. Because, and we kind of talked about this before we went on. The sheriff's office has a lot of cool things, but a crystal ball is not one of them. I don't know who a good guy is, who a bad guy is. I don't know, if you just committed the worst crime, I don't know who you are, right? And my goal every day is to go back home just like I left. I don't want to get sent home in the box. I just want to go home like I left, right? So in the state of Florida, it says that it used to be a 2-step rule, but now it just has to be, placed somewhere. So like if you have a firearm and you have it, let's say in the center console, you're fine. Right? If you have it in the glove compartment, you're fine. Okay. If it's stuffed in your seat, all bad. Under your seat, all bad.
What about on your side?
So on your side, if you have a concealed weapons permit. Okay. If you do not have a concealed weapons permit, it cannot be on your person. Okay. And where I just talked about under your seat or stuffed in your seat, the state of Florida describes that as readily accessible. So you can't have it on your person or readily accessible. So it has to be what they call a step for you to access the fire. It used to be a 2-step, but then they reduced it to 1. When it was 2 steps, it had to be like, for example, in your center console and in a case or like a holster, or in a holster that had a double snap, or in the glove compartment in a holster. But now they just said, hey, if it's just in the glove compartment, that's fine. If it's just in the center console and the lid is shut, that's fine.
So no on the passenger seat, not sitting on the back seat, not sitting on the ground. Oh wow!
But this is, remember,
this is the state of Florida.
Not an open and concealed state though, like in England. So now, can you compare and contrast to a state that has open and concealed carry laws versus Florida that doesn't? So would those be applicable in the state of Indiana? Not that you would know offhand, but just general knowledge.
So I haven't read Indiana law, but I'm assuming that open carry is allowed with a concealed weapons permit. That's what I'm assuming. I don't know, but that's what I'm assuming. Okay. So if that is the case, then it would be like, for example, in Florida, if you have a concealed weapons permit, man, hell, you can have a necklace with a gun on it. You can have it wherever you want to have it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I would double check with Indiana or whatever state, you're in, and just get really read up on it. Because like I said, in Florida, possession of a concealed weapon is a 3rd-degree felony. So, it's not, there's so many, we have so many shootings down here and so many homicides, like they're really tough on gun laws, but check where you are and or go to your local agency or department and really get read up on it so you know what your rights are and what you're allowed to do.
We
I
got
have
it.
a quick question.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, pop Johnny's question up there
Well,
now.
that's from Johnny because I'm pretty sure you know him, but he asked
What did he say?
how much butt you did kick today.
Today, man. Today we only had one good fight today, man. But it was we had some rascals, man, that they broke into this old lady. Pretty much a armed home invasion. This old lady, and they took off. They made your boy run, man. So I had to get out there and run these jokers down. But no, yeah, no butt whooping. But one of them did get dog bit though. One of them did get dog bit.
I'm glad you're using your words and not your hands.
Yes.
Right.
Real quick, Johnny said that that's another question that I want to ask you. He basically said that Indiana has passed on January 1st. Well, it is an open carry state now. You don't have to have a gun permit in order to carry. So when a police pulls over a vehicle and the person does not have, like I have a lifetime permit, right? But the person doesn't have a permit anymore, doesn't have a lifetime permit, but they do have a gun. And I know you really can't speak to Indiana because you're in Florida, but I'm wondering, what does that look like? Are they still able to ask the person, is there a gun in the vehicle?
So I always ask that. I try to ask it in a humorous way, but being serious. My little routine is, hey man, do you have any guns, drugs, knives, hand grenades, pipe bombs, or anything like that in the car? And the reason why I use those things because a guy did have a hand grenade in his car one time. Wow. So old military guy had a hand grenade in his car. Wow. But the reason why I asked that, right? This is the reason why I asked that, right? So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you have a gun, you're licensed to carry or whatever, and the gun is, I don't know, next to just stuck in your seat, right? We'll just use that for an example. Now, a lot of people who like roll with their guns a lot, they kind of forget about them. If it's like kind of your everyday kind of common thing, it's like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. So I asked about that because I don't want to be mistaken about anything, right? I don't want you to say, oh, hey, let me grab my registration. And then the optics from my angle is, oh shit, he's reaching and he's grabbing that gun, right? So again, it's an open conversation. It's not necessarily to be in your business to, oh man, let me hem you up. It's so, hey, we're both playing on an even playing field. And now, oh yeah, bro, oh, I know buddy got a pistol over there or whatever, yada, yada, yada. So now we're on the same page. It's not about taking it all the time. It's about, okay, cool. Now, if he bends over and he does that, I know he's not, he or she is not doing whatever.
Okay, so what up, like ladies? We have purses, we have backpacks, we have work bags and things like that, and a lot of women do carry. We carry them in our backpacks, we carry them in our purse, we might have it in the diaper bag. Like, what does that look like if a woman's pulled over and she's going for her insurance card, driver's license, and the gun is in her purse, and you didn't ask because she's a female?
So for me, and so there's little tactics that we have when we're, approaching cars and dealing with cars and stuff like that. So if you're minding I'll say your points of angle on cars or whatever, sometimes you'll be able to see those things and sometimes you won't. For me, if I can see it and I can see you're not dealing with it, right, I'll ask you about it, because at that point, just depending on where you are, I'm gonna try to have the advantage on you if you go and you try to pull it. Because if I'm standing where I'm supposed to be and you're on the driver's side and you're by yourself, you have to retrieve it and now turn all the way to shoot me. And I'm gonna have to jump on you if you try to do that, But for women, for anybody, I just try to tell people, just be as transparent about that stuff as possible, because perception is real. We talked about perception earlier, you know what I mean? And what we don't want to have is one officer's perception of something, which we've had many times. That's how you end up with a lot of these unnecessary shootings, because the perception is real, and you end up with somebody unbuckling a seatbelt, and this Yahoo done shot him, because, you know, he didn't do his due diligence in, you know, whatever. Hey, ask these questions, do these things, because if you feel hinky about something, then you should say something. You know, that's what I tell the young guys. Ask, talk to people. You'll be surprised what people will give you if you just ask them. You'll be very surprised.
Transparent with you for a
Mhm.
moment, because this is
Yeah.
truly on my heart. Let's
Sure.
ask Siobhan's question first and let you answer that, then I'll ask. Siobhan says, do the police have to give you reason or explain why they pulled you over?
So I always do, but I have a point in time when I give it to you. So this is for me what I do, excuse me. So if I pull you over, the first thing you'll see me do is touch your car, touch the back of your car. That's the first thing you'll see me do. And the reason why I do that is because I'm leaving my DNA on that car. If something goes bad, my DNA is on that car now. So they find that car down the street, they know that I was with this car.
Oh,
when
wow.
I go to the car, I'm going to introduce myself and tell you who I am. The very next thing I'm going to do is ask you for your driver's license, right? I'm not going to tell you anything until I get your driver's license. Now, once I get your driver's license, now I'm free to talk to you. And the reason why I wait till I get your driver's license is because, again, don't know who you are. If something goes bad and you shoot me and I fall down or whatever, when they come to find me, I got, you know, Willie's driver's license or whoever in my hand, or it's next to my body when backup comes, you know. But they always should. I don't know what every agency policy is, but they should always inform you why they're pulling you over at some point. Okay. But for me, I'm more than happy to explain to people, absolutely, yes, I do want to tell you why I pulled you over. I'll pull you over for X, Y, and Z.
We have, I think you got a comment from your fellow guy, Mr. Johnny Downs. He said, I heard.
Why'd you skip over Jackie's comment?
No, it was on the screen. My fault, Jackie. You know I love Jackie. How you doing?
Hi, Jackie. Jackie says that she keeps her gun in her purse. So you should know Jackie. You went to school with her, right?
I do know Jackie.
Okay.
Oh, Miss Chiropractor over there. I do know Jackie.
Right. I want to say hi to my sister. I see she's on here. Hi, Shalon. You only sent the smiley face. I'm smiling back at you. Okay, my question for you real quick. Yes. I think because we do have a lot of police shootings and it's unfortunate, but I do believe that oftentimes people they become very fearful, and if they don't police in neighborhoods where they're comfortable, it puts a 100 on what could be a 10. So this is just my personal views. I don't believe that certain police officers should be able to police where they wouldn't normally live. One, because they don't know the population. Two, because they're afraid of them, you know. And when you're afraid of someone, it becomes like a target. That's just like if you have mice or rats in your house. Mice and rats shouldn't live in your house, right? So what you do, you want to exterminate them. So oftentimes people are afraid of things that they don't know or what they're not used to. So again, it's just a personal opinion of mine. I don't think if you wouldn't live in a particular neighborhood, I don't think you should be able to police it, you know. And so I have a lot of family members that are military. My uncles are military, they're law enforcement, they're FBI agents, and they're very personable like you. So I can sit down and have those conversations with them because they look like me. And so because they look like me and they have nieces and nephews and cousins and, you know, fathers that look like them, they have more compassion. And so that, again, that's just my personal opinion.
No, and that is a very real statement. That's a very real statement. And I've encountered that question a gang of times, right? And one of the first times I encountered that question, I actually went to HR, to Human Resources, and I looked at the applicant pool, right? And the applicant pool is very, very small for what you're requesting, right? And I'll bring the military back into it. It's obvious if you look at the news for 5 minutes, then you know that there is obvious that you need law enforcement in the world, right? And just like we need military in the world, you know, and oftentimes we don't have that ability to just pick and choose or who we're going to get, you know. We had a conversation before we got on, I think before you got on too, we were talking kind of about stereotypes and stigmas and et cetera, et cetera. And kind of what we brought in, I said, my question I posed, I said, man, I said, hey, I said, we all from Gary, whatever. I said, man, are you scared of being Gary? Nope. Right. Gary for the longest time was one of the, highest rated cities for murder in the world. Right. But yet we can sit here comfortably and say, nah, bro, we ain't scared to do that. We're not scared to whatever. When we talked about people, getting in fights, and you say, a lot of times the first thing a cat will say is, well, you know where I'm from? You know where I'm from? We turn on some of our favorite songs, right? It glorifies the brutality in our neighborhoods, right? It does. And we'll man, it's got the right beat behind it. We're gonna ride to it. I love the Locks. Matter of fact, I got a Jada Bear shirt on. I love the Locks. The Locks kill more people in the first verse than, but I ride out to it though. Like keeping it 100, I ride out to it. Yeah. So, but again, talking about perception, right? Perception is real. You know what I'm saying? And so counter to what you were saying is that, being from the hood, I can kind of filter through some of the, this is right here, bro, whatever, yada, 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 whatever, right? But all the time, we don't have that luxury, right? We just don't. And officers don't have these crystal balls. And if a reputation has been built up, whether it's deserving or not, that's the reputation of it. Whether it's rightfully earned or not, it's just whatever. There's places in Gary, man, I probably ain't gonna roll over there, I go to the shack. Yeah, I probably will stay away from over there because I know what is, right? That place has earned that reputation. So now if I switch hats and I put my work hat on, right, and now I go into that atmosphere, being the same color or not, I'm like, man, look, like I'm owl eyes on it because we was talking earlier. There's not a line of people at no jail that I know of waiting to line up, confess their sins, and go to jail. People ain't trying to go to the pokey. So, man, if I can run, shoot, or get away, that's what I'm gonna do. But now at the same time, right, I get so tired of grandmamas and aunties pulling me aside and crying on my shoulders and saying, can you please find this joker? Can you please find this guy? Please, 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 please. People ain't walking around with necklaces say, hey, man, I killed 5 people. But we know they walk amongst us. We know they do. It could be people on this call right now. Like you never, ever freaking know. It's just, it's a part of all of that stuff is a part of our real world. All of it is.
Would you say, and I know this probably, it's a lot of different scenarios, but I do think that oftentimes because someone looks like you, not saying that you're not going to protect yourself at any cost because that you're a police officer in the line of duty, but preservation. Oftentimes I think when people feel like they have common ground or they have something in common, they'll talk people down and they'll try to preserve that person. Versus if it's someone that's a different color and you are afraid or you feel intimidated, your first reaction is not that this could be my brother or my nephew, is to, I'm, looking out for myself. Not that you shouldn't in all cases, but my first instinct is not to preserve this life, but to look out for myself. So is it like, do I shoot to disable this person or do I shoot to kill this person? Like,
so I learned, that's a very good question. And I learned a hard lesson that way. So that's how I actually got stabbed. Because I took the brother for face value. I was like, oh man, this dude right here, man, he a youngster, man. He don't whatever. And all my training, said that, man, put this joker in handcuffs, yada, 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 whatever. But he was looking for an opportunity. And I gave it to him, and then he stabbed me. Right? So obviously I lived through it, he got me in the vest, so he didn't, really do no damage. Just a little cut or whatever. But I say that because, again, when you're from the outside looking into a lot of stuff, right? It's like when we go and we order food from fast food restaurants, right? Bro, how the hell do you mess up a plain cheeseburger? Right? It's so common sense until you go back there and then you see all the working parts that it comes into for this plain cheeseburger. How many different hands and different things it touches, right? So it's a work in progress. And so like with us, when we see these things and we talk about shooting to kill or shooting to whatever, we are trained to shoot to stop the threat. Now, stop the threat is twofold, right? Stop the threat is this person on the ground, they ain't moving. That's stop the threat. So it's kind of like a shoot to kill, right? It is almost impossible to hit a moving target. Or if I told you, hey, from 5 feet away, I'm gonna put put a guy up here with a hand, and I want you to shoot this guy's hand. You know, it's almost impossible to do. Okay. You know, so you're taught to shoot toward the larger parts of the body, because if a person is moving, there's more chance of you to hit that. You know, so that's why you see all the chest shots and all that, because this area right here is the largest part of your body. This and then next being your freaking head. Those are the largest parts of your body. Okay. You know,
this is a good comment from Eugene Sharif. I believe those white cops from Hicktown should definitely have to do community work in our neighborhoods before they police them. And that's just going back to our question about policing the neighborhoods that they're not familiar with. So I like that comment.
And that's it. And that's a good. I know there's a lot of agencies that have. So like with our agency, we do things called what they call sheriff's walks, right? And so what that is it doesn't necessarily have to be the sheriff. It'll be like either a lieutenant is like the lowest rank that'll be out there. And then they'll take like people from their squads and then they'll walk through, they'll park their cars and they'll do a mile or whatever, like a mile circle. And they'll go through and they'll just knock on doors and talk and say, hey man, we're just checking on everybody. Do y'all need anything? And they'll introduce themselves or whatever. And they started that probably about 12 or 13 years ago. And it's, it does have impact, but, really when you're doing it, you're talking to the people who are always like kind of on your side. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
The people who don't want to talk to you, they don't open the doors.
Right.
Because, when you look at percentages and you talk about numbers, man, there's only really 3 to 5% of a real heavy criminal element, which is a very low percentage. But when you're talking about how many millions of people, there are in the United States, that balloons into a big number if you sit here and just put number to number on different things. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, the percentage of actual bad guys is a very low percentage in comparison to the masses.
Okay. We got Siobhan with I think follow up to the question about the reason being pulled over. Once the reason is given, for example, the license plate light is out and it's a false reason. Say they actually pulled you over because of intent, racial profiling, or you're leaving work late at night. However, the excuse they use is your license plate light is out. What can you do about it?
So so in Florida, your front windows are allowed to be tinted up to 27% and your rear windows are allowed to be 15%. Actual visible light being able to show through your light. Your windshield in the front, there's what you call a AS1 line on all cars. They have an AS1 line. You're not allowed to have tint below that AS1 line. And you can be ticketed for every single window that's out of compliance. So with that said, in reference to Siobhan's comment, if an officer has a legal reason to pull you over, I don't see why they would lie about it. Like I wouldn't risk, especially on body. Why would I wouldn't risk my job and say, oh, you had a license plate light out, but I'm really pulling you over for your tint. When tint is, I can lawfully pull you over for your tint. You know what I'm saying? But if in the case where someone says, hey, your license plate light is out or whatever like that. Now, again, Make sure you know your statute or whatever that statute reads. If it is that, and say, hey, the license plate is out. What I would do is say, hey, officer, can I check it real quick? Can I look at it? People ask me that all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Come on. Yeah, come on, look at it. Because for me, what it's doing for me is when I show you that, hey, it's a violation, it's actually restoring your faith in me.
That makes sense.
You know, so I want to show you. I want you to see, hey, your license plate light is out. Now, brake lights are a little bit different. I tell people that, oh, I want to see it. I'll say, all right, step out. Let me pat you down real quick, bro, because if your brake light is out, I have to step on the brake for you to see it, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, all right, let me pat you down real quick, man. You ain't got nothing on you, cool. Boom, boom, boom. Check it out. All right, step back there. Your passenger side brake light is out, right? Boom. And oh man, bro, I didn't even know. I know you didn't know. That's why I stopped you. I'm here for you.
So
and then we navigate through it.
To just say this, I think that you're coming from your perception of it, and it seems like you're a really great cop just from the us conversing back and forth. But I do know realistically that there aren't cops that are as detailed as you are. They don't have as much transparent, or they don't have as much compassion. So I personally have had one who lied for no reason, but again, they probably was looking for someone else that had maybe the similar vehicle, and when they noticed that it was a female, they had already pulled me over or whatever, and they had like 4 extra cops with them. It was just really massive. So I do know that it happens. It shouldn't happen, but they lie a lot, and they pulled over people. Oftentimes it might be mistaken identity, and then once they pull you over, they kind of go with it. So, and I think
but for me, that's what I really don't understand, because like, if I don't know, if you have a Ford Explorer and it's whatever, and 5 of us pull you over and you're not one and the same, I really want to tell you that, hey, Miss So and So, yeah, we stopped you. We had a kidnapping. This was the vehicle description, blah, 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 whatever. And we call it dusting off. You apologize, dust them off or whatever, and send you on your way. And then, but I tell people also, yeah, man, if you think that was garbage, then call in afterwards. When you drive off, call in. Call and say, hey, can I speak to a supervisor or whatever? So vet some of the things that you're being told. Definitely. It's no different than making a purchase, right? You have to invest in your law enforcement community. So it's no different than making a purchase. So if you have some information, definitely vet your information. Now, again, vetting and arguing with somebody on the side of the road is 2 totally different things. But if you have a question, hey, can Sergeant or Lieutenant give me a call back? This is my number, blah, 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 whatever. Hey, just got a question real quick. I was told X, Y, and Z. So definitely vet that information that you get 100%.
And Siobhan, just following up, I asked because I was pulled over, and the cop used the reason once I got home it was not out, and then he later said it was late and asked me where I was coming from. There were 5 cop cars who pulled up as well. I am legit, but that made me want to run. Yeah.
Right, and you know what, and that makes sense. So we
shout out.
So there used to be a thing. That you could and again, I'm talking about Florida. I'm not so they had what they call weed and seed neighborhoods. And so what these weed and seed neighborhoods were, these were neighborhoods that was identified by the county as high drug areas. So in weed and seed areas, they saturated those, and they really wanted you to get out and be proactive in those weed and seed areas, right? So you would get questions like, so I know nobody asks us, but I'll spin off into it. So there's different type of contacts. There's what you call a consensual contact, right? So if I roll up on you and you walking down the street, and I roll up and I jump out the car and I say, hey man, what you doing? Where you going? Right? That's a consensual contact. You don't have to tell me nothing. You can keep walking. You can, do whatever. All right. But the appearance of it is like, oh shit, the police jumped out on me, man. I gotta, whatever, talk to them. Right. So for me and how I train my guys, when I'm doing it, the truth is fine. Now, if you know some dirt on somebody, you trying to keep somebody from running, hey, man, I know, look, Bobby right there got an arrest warrant, right? Now we jump on Bobby, we're gonna jump out on Bobby for a whole different reason, right? you know. But if it's just people being nosy, you know, or whatever, the officer being nosy, I try to get the new guys to get away from those tactics, those old school tactics like that, because what ends up happening more often than not, something goes down, something happens, you end up chasing this guy's running, this, or whatever, and you end up with egg on your face because you really didn't have a valid reason to, you were doing a consensual contact, and because he didn't have to talk to you, you pushed it further. Mm. You know, I told a guy yesterday, bro, the state of Florida is not going to run out of bad guys no time soon. They're not going to run out of bad guys no time soon. So if somebody you just, you know sometimes you just know somebody dirty, you just know it. Wow, this joker right here, man, he hot. But the thing about being hot is, man, you got to check the right boxes. And Siobhan is absolutely right, man. You know, there are, you know, some folks who don't want it. They want to skip steps and skip boxes, you know. And I've only seen trouble come from that. When you eventually skipping steps and skipping boxes is going to catch up with you. You know, if you get away from me today, cool, bro, I got you. You back, holler, go ahead. We'll cross paths again. If that's who you are, that's who you are.
So we want to be respectful of your time, but we do have some more, and I want to make sure this is okay, because we know you got to go work and stuff.
Yeah, I'll do a few more, man. What we got?
Yeah, I had a cop lie about me riding over the rumble strips on the highway, but it was really my tent. How I know, because of a joke he made about no one being in the car, and he also had me to get out and sit in the car with him as he wrote me a warning. I guess he's just talking about a cop lying. Then we got
right.
What up, y'all? Okay, this is
hi, James.
We have a problem telling the coworker.
My boy, what up, man?
Russell. Oh, and there was a comment on here talking. I don't know if you saw this from. He said you're a great cop, but was a terrible.
Who said that? Oh, Johnny. Listen.
Word troopers.
Hey, can you put James's comment up there? I want to elaborate on that one. Johnny with all the jokes.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said, "What up, y'all? Would you have a problem telling a coworker to chill if they were being rude or aggressive?"
Oh, I did it 2 days ago. So,
that's what's up.
So a lady got he pulled a lady over. She was driving. Her and her passenger didn't have seatbelts on. It was a valid traffic stop. And so what happened was, it was a white officer. It was a black couple in the car. And she like immediately lit into him. She's like, "You crack a motherfucker, this, and this." Like she like immediately lit into him. And so he went back at her.
Yeah.
Right. And so if y'all remember earlier, I said, man, 2 wrongs will never. It takes 2. Mm-hmm. So I had to pull him back, you know, and I'm like, bro, you know, so listen, man, because these are the type of things right now, because, you know, people are people. People are people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you let this chick get up under your skin, now when you go to whatever, put this guy in jail or whatever you're going to end up doing, right? You're going to be looking for extra. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by extra is like nitpicking. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Now, could he find something that could be totally valid? But under normal circumstances, if your anger, I'll say, right, causes you to act outside of your scope that you would normally do, then you need to take a breath.
Question: how many times have you done that though? Like when you're with your fellow coworkers and police.
So for me, I'm not gonna get too graphic, but I purposely told a unit called ICAC. So it's the Internet Crimes Against Children unit, that I didn't want to work with them anymore. And the reason why I didn't want to work with them anymore is because of the things that I've seen that people do to children as far as rape. Because they deal with raping, like kids getting raped. Oh. And they have a lot of work, actually, a lot of work. And I say, hey, man, I don't want to go with y'all on these warrants unless y'all really, really need me, because that right there is a whole different box for me.
Mhm.
You know, when you go in and you see that these jokers have photos and they've kept memorabilia of things that they've done to their own children, their own whatever, like it's a different type of person, right? It's a really
Sick. Yeah.
right, a really, really, really different level of person.
Yeah.
So that's one instance where I had to remove myself from, now I'm to the point, August 6th to be my 17th year. I don't, I mean, it takes a lot, bro, to get me, other than trying to kill me, or something next level like that. I really don't take it personal. I really don't. I used to, because coming from the hood, man, man, somebody call you out, who you talking to?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? You just come back like that. It's
Right.
just whatever. But now I understand that 99.9% of the anger and the attitude is towards the car and the uniform. It's not towards me, it's towards the car and the uniform. Because I go home and change clothes and come back in a different car with a different outfit. You be like, oh, what up, fam? Oh, what up?
So I would
So
say, Zeke, that's a quality of yours because you're able to separate the man from the uniform. What we have seen here lately in with the last 8 years, I would say, because maybe longer than that, because I feel like we always had issues with like relations with the police, but it became more apparent when social media and you can share a lot of things. And I feel like it was doubled down when Obama was in office, and then tripled down when Trump was in office. But what I'm realizing is that most officers can't separate the humanality from the uniform, and so that's where we see the issue at. Um, a lot of violence continues to happen because people, say we're blue, and I understand that, but you're human first, and people have to remember that. But a lot of stuff happens in access. Like I think just a couple weeks ago, maybe even last week, someone was killed and they were shot like 160 times or 119 times. And I know, like, if someone is doing something wrong, the first couple shots is going to take them out. Do we have to shoot them 160 times or 119 times in access to take one person down? And I think that is overkill.
Yeah.
right. I haven't read that thing, but somebody was telling me about it, and I just hadn't had time to look it up. And so there is a reality in the word excess, right? There's a reality. Um, so I'll give you a story to that, and it never came back, but it's kind of how this, for example, panned out. I want to say '06 or '07. um, we engaged in a pursuit of a triple homicide suspect from Virginia, and we chased this guy for all up 95. He eventually went off into a road and semi crashed or whatever. So by the time he got there, you had about 40 at least officers, right, on scene.
Mhm.
Um, Now he's, armed, dangerous, triple homicide. He's got all this kind of stuff. Um, and a shot rang out from the vehicle. So everybody shot back at the car, right? Um, after it was all said and done, you probably had maybe 100 rounds. I would have to, if I had to guess, you know what I'm saying? You say everybody pull the trigger twice, you easily 100 rounds. Um, when the autopsy and everything came out, that single shot that was heard was him actually shooting himself, right?
Mm.
But because of the distance and everything else, the perception was that he was shooting at us, so we shot back, right? Um, Hindsight being 2020, and having all these years on it, you know, definitely that scene could have been managed a little bit better. Now some people say, "Oh, he's a bad guy. He need to go anyway. Fuck him. Save the tax dollars money." I hear that, but there's always the other side to every story. To every single story, there's always the other side. Um, so I do agree with you that overkill, the word overkill is real. Um, Once the way the training is, it goes, and even when I train, um, you go until the threat is stopped. So that don't necessarily mean gun. They don't necessarily mean gun. If I'm going hands on with you, right, and I take you to the ground, I do whatever. The minute that you're done, then I go from 100 to whatever, whatever low point it takes for me to get you in the handcuffs. So once that threat is eliminated, it should be dropping down to zero. But I will look that up. Like somebody else brought that to me, but man, we've been so busy. I really hadn't had time to research it and look at everything. I just kind of get stuff in kind of waves.
No, that's cool.
But no, good question though.
I want to get to some comments real quick, so I know we got to let you go.
Right.
But comment here, he talked about he felt pulled over. I got pulled over. Said it was speeding. Never got a ticket for speeding, but they illegally searched my car, took me to jail for blunt roach. And that's the comment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Texas. Go ahead.
So I don't. Again, that's a trick. I mean, I had to be there to kind of be more. But that's the good part about this question is, if you get pulled over, does an officer have to cite you for whatever they pulled you over with? The answer is no. Okay, so if I pull you over for something, let's say you didn't have your seatbelt on, right? And in hindsight, we'll use this question right here. In hindsight, there's narcotics found in the vehicle or whatever, and arrest is made. Do I have to write you a ticket for that seatbelt? The answer is no. You don't have to write a ticket. You just have to document it in the report because you have to show just cause why that traffic stop was initiated. Now, me personally, especially if you cool with me, I don't write people tickets if they cool with me. I'll write you a warning, and then that way it's documented on the traffic side of it. Just for my agency, it's documented on the traffic side of it. I'll write you a warning, and then I'll take you to jail for whatever. You got a body in the backseat, whatever the hell it may be. Right. That's just the way that I do it. So, but it's not a citation is not mandatory when you get pulled over if you're arrested for something else.
Okay. I know we didn't get to a lot of other questions, so like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you coming on. If we can do part time, another one, if you have whenever your schedule allows it, we would love to, because as you see the comments and questions coming in, but I like to get 2 comments in right here, and I agree with these. We need more like you. God bless you, and we definitely praying for your safety, brother.
For sure, appreciate you, fam.
That's coming from myself too in the show. And of course, Mrs. Wakefield, thank you for taking the time to speak with us, especially with a topic like this, emotionally late. So we really appreciate you, brother. We will probably, I'll contact you in a couple of days. Let's see when your schedule opens up. We can do part 2, because I see it's a bunch of questions, and people are appreciating the education that you're giving us. And so a lot of things I did not know. That's why I didn't really say anything, because I'm like, didn't know that, and so.
Right.
Anytime, brother, we'll contact you. Thank you again for your time. Go ahead, Candace.
Just really want to say thank you. I really appreciate you. The information was so knowledgeable. Me and Eugene and another one of our classmates is actually working on event that we want to have next year. So I would love for you to partner with us on that. Come out and kind of speak to the people. We're going to throw it back home. And so really, I think it's really important that we work on the relationship that the community have with officers. And again, we would love to hear some more people like you if you partner with any other guys from your agency and they can get the same information there, and they are compassionate about what they do. We would love to talk to them as well. Again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
For sure. I want to give y'all one thing, man, before I bounce. And we was talking about it earlier. What I would suggest that anybody does, again, I don't know, different agencies do different things, but I would really, folks that are really passionate about what, this and what's going on, I would really, encourage you to do a ride along. That's what we call it down here in Florida, yes. A ride along. And so what the ride along program is that you can go to work with an officer for their shift. The city of Jacksonville doesn't let people ride past midnight just because it's just crazy sometimes. But anytime you can, if you come on the day shift or whatever, but there's so much stuff to see during the day. And like I said, different agencies do different things, but I would really encourage folks to do that, because whenever you want to have a discussion or, you feel a way about something, the best thing is to be able to speak on it from both sides of it. You know what I'm saying? Speak on it on both sides of it. So that way you get a really informed thing, what's going on in your neighborhood, what the officers are seeing, talk to them, and really get engaged, because relationship is two ways. Yes. Relationship is always two ways. One-sided relationships never work, and so that's real talk. Yeah. And I'll let y'all branch off on that. But man, I appreciate you, man. Anytime, just contact me, brother. And I do what I can, man.
Appreciate you. Go Bears.
Thank you so much.
Go Bears, man. Y'all stay blessed.
You too. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was so awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. And again, like before the show, we were, just chatting, and I kept saying to him, a lot of officers would stay away from, this type of conversation, because
that's because they have something to hide, or they feel guilty.
I agree. And so it puts it into perspective, because he was just being real. He was like, don't even, when we were coming up with stuff for the podcast, for the show, he was like, I just want to have a conversation with my people. That's exactly what his exact words were. He was like, I understand that, a lot of us African Americans, because when I was talking to him, I was framing it like this. I was saying, yes, we're older, right? We're 40 and over, right? But a lot of us have kids, right? And so our kids are driving, or in college that are driving, and they're probably passing through these jurisdictions all the time, police precincts and, different areas all the time, and don't really know what their rights are. And so we didn't even get to some of the other questions we may have. Like I had, is there a grace period? Like, is there a grace if I go over the speed limit? When I, or when I get pulled over, should I be able to film? How far should I be back from filming if I see someone getting pulled over? Want to be, so a lot of those questions, and that's cool, because we want to make it transparent where people can actually learn, be able to learn and educate their youth, the people in their household, their families, friends, whatever, on stuff that happens. Because I'm going to give them some statistics that you pulled early, which was interesting.
Yes, I did.
Let me grab them real quick. And they got a comment. Bling bling.
All right, Ken, I hear you. Okay, so guys.
One of them right here. Go ahead.
Okay, I pulled some statistics because I just wanted to kind of inform you of what it looks like. I tried to find some from this year. I believe it said approximately 622 people were killed so far by police officers this year. The one that I have posted is Black people were 28%. 28% of Black people killed by police in 2021, despite being only 13% of the population. So that's very alarming.
And then we got another one here.
And then also, there have only been 8 days in 2022 where the police have not killed someone. Again, that's very alarming. We're almost in August, and out of this period of time in 2022, there's only been 8 days where a Black person was not killed by the police.
And so we were talking about that too before the show, because I was, wanted to be fair. Like, hey, these are some statistics that she pulled. Can you talk about it? He was talking, like I said, I didn't want it to be where we're confronting him and where he could be defensive, just be able to talk up, because we know some people will, some officers will get defensive, right? They will be in there, be like, oh, that's just, whatever, right? So I wanted to be able to make it transparent where he could be able to see what, what statistics are out there and speak to him. And one of the things he said, a lot of things the media don't even report. Mm-hmm. And, he was going litany day after, like, just he said yesterday and the day before yesterday and the last week, the stuff that just happened to him as a police officer. And I was just like, wow, and so it goes along with that. He said a lot of times, the media will latch on the stories that sound good, that will get people up in the frenzy. He said, but it's a lot of times police shootings happens a lot more than people think, but they don't report on it. And so it goes along with your statistics. And so I love this comment here by Mr. Johnny Downs. I truly love what you all are doing with the show. All graces to Candace because she was the inception of this idea. And so, absolutely, we appreciate the support, brother. But go ahead, Candace.
Just want to share something with you guys. While we were talking, I just thought about it. So I was in Gary last week. My parents go to Embassy of Christ. That is right on the 41st, 61st, 41st Avenue. And so while when church let out, we was actually talking and conversing with my cousin's wife. And I was like, hey, what are you guys doing after church or whatever? And she was like, we're actually going to have my son move. And so my cousin, we call him AJ. I think AJ is 25 or 26. His dad's a dean at Bowman. Mom's a nurse. He went to college. He was all state, really good kid. Went to college. Then now he's in the military. Has a girlfriend. Never been in trouble, but he lived in Valparaiso. So we're like, why are you helping him move? And she's like, well, they harass him and his girlfriend out there in Valparaiso. They write, the N-word on his car. They've been tearing his car up. The police constantly pull him over, asking to search his car. Is there any drugs in the car? Is there any guns in the car? And if anybody knows my cousin, he is just really a straight up type of person. He was never even raised in that type of environment to even want to do anything like that. So again, as we talk about the police, they do certain things to people who don't look like them. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow. And she was just like, he had 2 years of this, right? Even making police reports coming into the community where he lived at, they're not doing anything because he doesn't look like the people who live there. So his mom was like, that's it. I'm scared for my son. We're going to, after church, we're going to go and move him. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I was like, that is very frightening. I said, I would never want to see it be like an Arbery situation where he was just out in his community and something happened to him. And I was like, it doesn't matter where a person is going or where they're coming from. If they're on their way home from work, on their way to school, to the grocery store, they should never be harassed. They should be protected where they live at. And as a mother, I know it was terrifying for her to even have to deal with that. She's like, my son has never had to go through that. Like, he's never been in trouble. He was athletic. He's intelligent. He's been to college. And now he's in the military. And the police, not only is he being harassed where he lives at, but the police is harassing him as well, and again, we have to, everybody is not like Zeke. Zeke is a really good person. He's passionate about what he does, but we still have those officers who see brown skin and it's something about brown that just agitates their soul.
Yep. So. And I was talking to him before the show. I've had experiences myself. I actually ran from the police. That's a whole different story for itself. But I was 18, but it was because, and I told him, I said, it's because of the perception. Like, I've been alive, I'm 41 years old, and so I've always had negative thoughts when it comes to police officers. Like, it wasn't escalated to the level that it was when Brother Floyd got killed a couple years ago. But it just as a black male growing up, those thoughts were always there. And before the show, when he talked about the ride along, I never knew that was an option growing up. Right?
I did, and I've always wanted to do a ride along. I did know that, and probably because we have a lot of officers in my family.
I did one as I got older, but I never knew growing up that was an option. Mm-hmm. And so, but he said when you have those events like a ride along, he said something where they go door to door knocking. They never did that at Edna. Like, they never came to Edna. Like, think about that. Like, they never
they knocked on your door, but it's a time you probably wanted to.
Right. So because if I'm pretty sure when you do stuff like that, it alleviates the tension. Like, okay, and then you're familiar with the officers. The comment that James made, when you do have a situation, something may happen. Do you have instances where you can de-escalate the situation by just saying, "Hey, officer, chill." You know what I'm saying? So that's why I asked him that. Like, how many times have you done that? We know other officers who wouldn't even admit to that. Just say, "Oh, I've never seen anything wrong happen on." Right, during the interaction, which is crazy to me, so that's why I flip out, because I'm like, out of 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years, you've never seen an officer do anything negligent. And he made it. Ezekiel is pretty interesting because before we was talking, he put a statistic. He said 32 million interactions happened with police last year. He said, so if you think about from a numbers perspective, yes, you're going to have bad situations happen. And so when he said that, I'm just like that. Yeah, that's lunacy for someone to say, no, I've never seen nothing happen. Like, really? Come on. Like these, and like he says, bad people, right? So
Yeah.
stuff is going, like we're humans. We're going to make stupid choices. Some of us do stupid things. We're panicky. Some of us have anxiety real bad. So something will happen. The officer may have a bad anxiety. So something will happen. But to someone to say, I've never seen anything happen in my watch, I'm like, no, that's a lie. So
And they're definitely not telling the truth. All right. So another one of our statistics, guys, is police killed 10 more people through 7/16/22 compared to this time last year. So again, those numbers are alarming. I know we have some other comments.
Yep. This should run right along. That's too much like being arrested. Candace, let me know how that goes. What you doing?
I will say this, guys. I keep we talk about statistics and things like that. So just like Amaru said, someone says, "Oh, I've never seen a bad interaction happen on my watch as a police officer." I don't think that's true. So we have 201 police officers, and the one police officer see the other 200 police officers doing something wrong, and they don't say anything. How many bad police officers do we have?
201.
201. That's all I want to say, because I always hear people say, not all police officers are bad. That's true. But if we have the good one that's sitting over there and they're not saying nothing, then they're as bad as the company that they're keeping.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And
all right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we pulled this article. Killings by police officers have declined after the Black Lives Matters protest. So what I would say, guys, is continue. Even though it looks like nothing is being accomplished and nothing is happening, if we keep pursuing the lawyers and the judges and the prosecutors and the Congress, and we keep pursuing that, we keep going after legislation on helping to repeal all of these things that are happening in the community with police officers, we do have the ability to make change. So don't stop. Let's keep going. We can't just, talk about it in our homes and not put any action behind our words.
And then this goes back with the graphic, statistic that we shared earlier. There have only been 8 days in 2022 where police did not kill someone. And so if you look at this, is very powerful here. It is, again, this is Candace because she pulled the data. She did an excellent job of pulling this data. If you look at this graph, look, the gray spots in the calendar are the days that they had no shootings and it did not kill anybody. It's only 8 of them. Look at that. And it's June, so we're only 6 months into the year. So think about that. This is very powerful data right here. But go ahead, Candace, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted you to pull that graph up so that people can actually see that, when we do these shows, that we actually do the research to pull information so that you guys can have access to it as well.
And then, again, this was from earlier states with more permissive gun laws have more police killings. And so this goes along, with Indiana, having their laws changed as of July 1st. And so that's why we wanted to also do this show, because we'll have this conversation, because we understand there are fears out there, but people do have. I had a bunch of people call me and I had an officer talk to me about that. And, I'm just like, wow. Like he said, what if, you're at the grocery store and so you can be picking up groceries, right? And so your firearm is showing and someone feels like you threatened them and they shoot you right in the store, because you have this open carry stuff going on. So it's crazy. So I like that. That's why we had the conversation with Ezekiel, so we can at least be a little more educated around this. And then we have this last one. Go ahead, Candace. I know this is one of your
police killings have harmed mental health in Black communities, studies finds out. And so I pulled this one. I thought it was really important because we oftentimes on our show, we talk about what mental health is and what it looks like. And so mental health is not just caused by, social, physical, emotional, and verbal abuse, but also by the things that we actually see in our community, and seeing people continuously being shot, being killed, being, having fights with police officers, and just being pulled over by police officers has become very terrifying. So if you're one of those people who, like Amaru said, have anxiety and different things like that, associated with the police, please talk to someone so that we can, continue to decrease mental health, work on mental health, and also know that there is a relationship that we can have in the community with police officers. Is all police officers, again, are not, bad. Ezekiel is one of the good ones, just reaching out, making those connections.
Okay, and so we hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. We tried to keep it under the hour, but still, and that's a great thing, because, we're bringing material and content that people want to talk about. And so, usually if people keep it under an hour, it's usually not a really good conversation. So he was teaching us stuff, educating stuff that I had no idea about, like safety check. I promise you, as soon as it's over, I'm going outside to do a safety check on both the vehicles.
I was thinking about that too. Do our word of the day for us.
Word of the day is action. And the Swahili interpretation of his Kitendo. And go ahead, you can read the definition.
Action, the fact or process of doing something, typically to achieve an aim or a goal. And so I picked action because we are now called to action. It is not just on the police to make sure that they are doing their job, but also on us to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, protecting our kids, our nieces, our nephews, our parents, husbands, wives, spouses. It is up to us. So we have to be moved to action.
And I agree. I love that word. What was the choice? It was change or action. I was like, nah, let's go with action. I love that. I would also like to pivot to our segment, which is called Eye Candy, right? So, and we're going to do her shoe game. And so I have some photos here for Miss Candy. So we want to get those toes and because if you ask you, someone gonna point them out, right? You already know. But go ahead and talk about the shoes here.
All right, so I have on some heels today, just with a little heel. They are clear. I like them, and the bottom of them are black. And so these shoes, if you like the clear heels, you can pick them up at Acura. And I know that Acura is in all of the malls. And so that's our shoe game for today.
Okay. And then we also have our Black Entrepreneur of the Day. We'll say Black Business of the Day. And let me share her right here. This young lady right here.
Okay, this is Letitia. She is a hairstylist and a makeup artist. The name of her shop is Black Diamond. You can reach her at 219-293-3168, and she is located in Maryville. Also, this is the young lady who is actually donating a hairstyle for us for our community event. So she is really, really great. And she is gifting us a hairstyle for one of the ladies at the event.
Dope. And also with a great transition segue to the event. And so we will be ramping up aggressively, pursuing donations. Just a quick summary of what's going on. We do have, we have partnered with Antoine on some things here. So this is again a community cleanup. And so we have a DJ, Jerry Boyd, and so he will be DJing. Yes, we have Juan. He will be doing the haircuts, and so we got that locked down. We still are, still trying to lock down someone cutting the field, and so that'll be done within the next 4 weeks. I hope, right, before we'll be out there cutting it with our hands, right, or get some lawnmowers, right, pushing lawnmowers. But we got all that locked down, and then so now we're gearing toward. We got the food, right, and then we're getting the supplies, and so. What I've been getting is a bunch of people who have been asking about back to school supplies, right? And so, and that's why we'll be aggressively asking for donations because it will be back to school around that time. School starts back, I think, within the next week or whatever, in September. And so,
September, school starts. Some kids are starting back literally next week.
I know, but I'm for the one who do calendar because I know some do year round, and so. I said all that to say this. If you would love to donate anything, donate the money so that we can purchase the supplies for back to school, book bags, pencils, pens, markers, crayons, whatever it may be. Or if you want to have that at the event, because technically it's supposed to be about a community cleanup, but we would not mind if you just said, you know what, I'll go buy the supplies myself and just bring them there. Because we will have tables set up. And so obviously it'd be first come, first serve because we don't have a litany of funds, right? I wish we did have $1,000. We just spent on funds, right? For supplies for that. But we would love for people to donate either the money for us to buy the supplies or you can buy the supplies yourself. We will show you the receipts. We're not trying to hide no money. It's still nobody for nobody, right? But we want to make sure that this is a event where everybody can get something out of it. And her father will be barbecuing. We will have food on deck. We will have refreshments and all that. And so we want to make sure that this is a family ladies event. I had people call me today that I talked to, said they was going to be there. So that's cool. People sharing the flyer. So please share, talk about it. I know you want to give your thoughts on it. Go ahead, Candace.
So I really just want to say thank you to Candy McSwain. She donated. Kenny donated. Eddie Lowe donated. Jill Murray, that's someone that Eugene knows, donated. I believe that Eugene's sister-in-law donated. Who else was it? Someone else donated. But I really just want to say thank you guys so much, because it means so much to us. The money that we are getting from donations, we're using towards the cleaning supplies, any of the food that we're getting, paying the DJ, the barber, and different things like that. This is really about giving back to the community. So I just really want to say thank you. You guys are so awesome, and we could not make this event happen without you.
Okay, and I would like to also, like we said, thank you for Antoine, Marcus Ford, Eddie Lowe, my man Mick, Jerry. As soon as I talked to him, he was on board. Joe, I say Eddie, yourself, right? Your parents.
And that's who I need to thank. I need to thank my parents. My parents are like so ahead of the game. They've already been out to the to the baseball field, checking it out, seeing what they need, what has to be done. So, Mom, Dad, thank you so much. Thanks to my siblings, also, and my nieces and nephews for always being supportive.
And so I think that was our shout out. So, do you have any closing remarks?
I don't think so. I guess I do. I just want to tell everybody, all of the listeners, we really appreciate you guys. We could not do this without you. Thanks for all the love and all the support. If there's anything that you guys ever need, just let us know. We are open to doing shows on different topics, because we want to give back to you guys, and we want our shows to be very meaningful. We are here to provide a platform where we talk about positivity and things that are affecting the Black community. So again, thank you again for all the love and the support.
I concur. That was well said. I would also add something too. Where I work at, so people always ask, where do you work? Where do you work? I work for a nonprofit. I'm not a spokesperson, so I want to make sure I do not represent you guys and all that, right? But I work for them, and so it's an interesting thing. What we do is we have these programs in schools in Chicago. I work downtown Chicago, where one of the programs is called BAM. BAM is called Becoming a Man. And so in the school system, we have counselors who go into these schools who talk to the young men about becoming a man, right? They have, it's pretty interesting because their grants are funded through the Bears, the Bulls, the White Sox, the Cubs, and all that. So it's pretty cool because the sports teams are involved. And so they have expanded, right, to different cities throughout the United States. And so one of them is in Dallas. They have one in LA, DC, Kansas City, but also in Boston. And so the program, they're advertising on CNN tonight at 10 o'clock. And I think the guy's name is Pablo. I forget the pronounce his name, but it's called CNN has United States of America, and it's athletes and the cost of winning. And so they're going to be highlighting the BAM project that's happening in Boston. The guy who's over, his name is Sean Brown. He's dynamic. I love this guy. I talk to him all the time. We have conference calls with him all the time. But these are some of the programs that are going to be advertised and solicited for other cities, because they see the work that is being done in Chicago. Not everything, because we always see, they're over there just killing each other in Chicago. And that's some of that is warranted, right? But they don't talk about the work that some of these organizations are doing in the city of Chicago that's reducing the gun violence. And so other cities are seeing what they're doing in Chicago, and they want those programs similar to what they have in Chicago in their own cities. And so they're working here for Milwaukee. They're working one. We were supposed to in Seattle. They have one. They even have one in London, all the way across all across the pond. And so it's pretty remarkable what they're doing. I love where I work at because I will say 95% of the work staff are African Americans, which you don't never see. And so they're literally talking with our kids. And so I just want to put that out there. If you have time, it's an hour special. It'll be on CNN tonight. And so I would just like to add that with my closing remarks. You want to say something?
No, I'm all good. Just tell everybody have a great night and enjoy your week.
Well, we got to talk about our next podcast, which is next week, because Kenny will be doing a part 2. Remember, because his wife going out of town, and so he didn't want to wait 2 weeks. He had the kids by himself, right? So he's like, "No, I want to get y'all out the way because these kids get crazy over here." And so it will be this Sunday, July 31st. Will be part 2 of our cryptocurrency conversation with our man Kenny. It's really cool because it will be following up with what's been happening with Coinbase and stuff and their marketing. So pretty interesting conversation. Just wanted to thank you guys for your time. I am done signing off. Candace.
Bye, guys. Enjoy your work week.
Yes. Have a good night, y'all.